Hey there, Sanctuary family, and thank you for joining us for our My Church gathering. My name is Edrin, lead pastor here at the Sanctuary, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity to connect with you, our congregation, and to share a little bit of what God's been up to here at the first part of 2021. If you are new to Sanctuary, we do this a few times a year just to have an opportunity to pause and reflect on God's goodness, what's been happening in ministry here, about our finances and other special projects going on. And I pray that this will be an opportunity for you to further engage in the life of our church, and also to send questions in based on what you hear here today. And so I'm going to take a few moments and share ministry highlights, ministry updates from the first part of the year. You'll hear a finance update. You'll hear from our phase reopening team as well, and our elders as well have a few other special announcements and updates that will be a part of this gathering. And so I want to first start by looking at our mission, vision, and purpose, just as a reminder for all of us about what it is that moves us to be the kind of church that we are. Sanctuary was planted in 2003 with a vision of being an urban, multi-ethnic, multiplying movement, reconciling people to God and one another. And the purpose of our church is to grow as a multi-ethnic, multi-generational community of Christ followers, demonstrating God's love from North Minneapolis throughout the city and to the whole world. That's who we're called to be. That's what we're striving for. We do it by making and developing followers of Jesus who are biblical. That means we continually study and practice God's word. We are devotional. We worship God with our entire lives, not just with our heart and our mind, but with all of us. We bring it to God in worship. We cultivate loving relationships across barriers of race and gender, socioeconomic class, and any other potential barrier that separates most of our world. We here at Sanctuary want to strive to be connectional people who come together across difference. And then we are missional. We work together to spread the good news of Jesus, the good news of Jesus in word and in deeds of compassion, mercy, and justice. We are missional people. We are on mission together, joining with God in what God is up to in the world. And so that's who we are. And Sanctuary has a big, audacious goal. It is a goal that sets us apart from many other churches, but it is a goal that we can achieve together with God's help. And we have a strategy of going how we will go after that goal that I want to take a look at really quickly. I'm calling these our strategic priorities. And if this is your first time hearing this, as I get into it a little bit, it'll get more familiar. But I want to point out three words that are very important to what we're striving for and how we're going after our mission and vision as a church: connect, grow, and serve. Those are our strategic priorities. And I just want to take a moment and say a little bit about each of those, and then point to what we've been up to in the first part of the year as it relates to each of those strategic priorities. When we talk about connecting, we're talking about our worship experiences and the way that they function as front doors. They function as foundational gathering spaces. And in most cases, they're the first and primary place where people gather, expecting to experience God through love and power. In our worship services, when we talk about worship and other special gatherings that fall under this umbrella of connection, we want to create warm, welcoming spaces for people to worship. We want to invite people continually into heartfelt, passionate worship. And we want to see people growing to get to know God and one another, growing from strangers, whether you're on a screen or whether you're in a row together. We want to see people growing from being strangers towards being friends, and from friends towards being family, because we are a family of God. That's what we're striving to be here at Sanctuary. And our worship services and worship gatherings and other spaces that we create for people to get to know God and one another, that is what we're striving for us to move from strangers to friends to family together. And so far in 2021, the primary gathering place for us has been our weekly worship service. We've been gathering weekly via Facebook and YouTube, and we continue to see many, many new people engaging our church that way, getting to hear about Sanctuary somehow. Somebody shares a link online, and we're hearing from people in the Twin Cities and other places. That Sanctuary is where they're tuning in weekly. And so we're excited to see what God is doing with our worship service. And the fact is, look, I'm really looking forward to the day when we're not just meeting online, when we're able to meet in person. But I am at the very same time very grateful for the fact that our team was able to pivot and to produce high quality, inviting and transformative worship services online. For 15 months now, we've been nearly 15 months, we've been online worshiping. And I believe that God has used those services to bless people, to draw us closer together, to encourage people. And I'm grateful that despite us not being able to meet in person, we've been able to continue to worship online. And so I want to give a huge shout out to our staff team for the ways in which they've pivoted this over this last year and have helped to create those incredible worship services. Huge shout out to Jeremy and Tyler, who work with me very closely week in and week out to shape those services and bring them to you. A huge shout out to Pastor Rose for lending her gift in preaching and teaching from time to time within the context of our worship service. Huge shout out to Art Hayes and Tanya Hughes, the band and the worship team, for the ways that they serve our congregation through those services. And I'm excited to see how God will continue to use our online ministry, even as we prepare to return to in person worship. I believe God will use those online services to have so that we might have a continuous online presence that reaches new people. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about connect worship services and other gatherings that act as a front door to help people to connect to God and to one another. The second word we talk about when we think about strategic priorities, not just connect, is to grow. To grow. When we talk about grow, we're talking about helping people, the congregation, that's you and I, to engage in spiritual practices and spiritual rhythms that help us to grow and to connect and become more of who God has created us to be. When we talk about grow as a strategic priority, we're talking about many of the traditional religious practices, spiritual practices like reading the Bible daily, like praying throughout the day, like journaling, silence and retreat and solitude. But we're also talking about workshops and sermon series and classes that relate to key themes within our church. We're talking about book clubs that are offered. We're talking about discussion groups that are offered, forums that will be offered. We're talking about life groups and we're talking about ministry opportunities. And so far in the first part of 2021, there are a few things I want to point out and celebrate that I've seen that have helped us as a congregation to grow together. The first is back in January, you'll remember we started the year with a week of prayer there in January. We kicked off 2021 with 7 days of prayer that grew into 21 days of prayer. And I'm excited about what I saw God do in our church as we started with 7 weeks and saw God moving and expanded it into 21 days of prayer. And my hope is that moving forward, my desire is to see us as a church to every January start with prayer. Not 7 days, not even 21 days, but 30 days of prayer the entire month of January. I'd love to see us moving forward, commit that month to prayer and seeing what God might do in our church and beyond. In February, we celebrated Ash Wednesday. I don't know if you and your family had a chance to make it out, but I remember that night especially as it was a cold night. And if you came here to the sanctuary, you saw a huge cross, I would say 9+ feet tall cross, well lit in the parking lot. There was a fire going there. And then you saw Pastor Rose and I, along with Tara and Shayla and the rest of our staff, greeting people as they drove into the parking lot to receive ashes and to receive a gift bag so that as a family, they could celebrate the beginning of Lent. And it was a marvelous time. I was frozen. My feet were hurting by the end of it, but it was wonderful after not meeting in person for so long to be able to see you, Sanctuary, and to give you ashes as a part of Ash Wednesday, and also to offer a blessing over you And it was awesome to see some folks who lingered, who actually drove really slow just to savor that moment of being together. And that's a moment that I won't forget here in the first part of 2021. And one of the other takeaways and highlights for me in this first part of the year when it comes to growing and our spiritual formation together was our emotionally healthy spirituality series that we went into. It's the second time that we as a church have gone into that series. But this time, one of the really special parts was that we accompanied the sermon series with two workshops that were led by our sister, Nina Barnes, who is a new covenant member here at the sanctuary. I'm so excited to have you, Nina, as a part of our church. And you came in serving, which is a prototype for what we want to see. And Nina led two incredible workshops around the genogram, as well as a rule of life, an intentional plan for how you will grow in your faith. And that accompanied our EHS series. And I'm excited to see what God will continue to do with the material that we covered and the ways in which we heard from the Holy Spirit in that series. And so we've been connecting, we've been growing two of our strategic priorities. But the third part of our strategy that I want to talk about today is serving. When we talk about connect, grow, serve, when we get to serve, we're talking about the ways in which we use our God given talents, our God given resources, our God given skills, our God given interests and desires to help others, both within our church and in the community. We're talking about how we bring what we have, not just keep it to ourselves, but we bring it so that we might serve others. And so far here in 2021, we continue to be Sanctuary, a church that is making a tangible difference in the lives of others. We are being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's not just a throwaway phrase. This is something we're doing. And I'm so excited to see the ways in which we will expand actually our service in the months and years to come. Here are a few highlights from the first part of this year that I want to point to that give us a sense of the kind of impact we're having as a church. We continue our bi-weekly food distribution. It's a partnership with Good in the Hood and Second Harvest Heartland. And every other Thursday, we are feeding hundreds of families for free. They just drive in, receive a ton of really quality stuff, and they're able to supply their family with the food and the things that they need, the goods there, and we're able to bless families that way. Hundreds and hundreds of families each and every other week. And there's a wonderful team that Andrea Lee has assembled, a team of volunteers and families who are supporting that part of our ministry. And it's a beautiful sight to see us serving the community in that way. Around Easter, we held a special food distribution where we gave out 300 Easter dinners to families within the community. And to be able to tangibly bless people in that way, it does something for us as well. And so I'm grateful for the work that went into making that happen and the ways that we were able to bless people and also invite them to join us online for Easter service. One of the things that I'm most excited about with our church, I love when I get to tell the story of what God is doing in the life of Sanctuary. But I love the fact that we're hosting a vaccination clinic. And so far, within our vaccination clinic, through partnership with Hennepin Health, we've been able to help more than 1,000 people get vaccinated against COVID-19. More than 1,000 people in just a few short months have received their vaccination through our clinic here at the sanctuary. Listen, I would encourage you to hit pause on the video you're watching, rewind it a little bit so you can hear that again if you need to, but then hit pause again and shout, because that is a tangible way in which we are blessing. We've blessed 1,000 people directly, and I believe even more people are being blessed by it. We are doing good, public health good through our vaccination clinic, and that's the kind of church that we are. We're not simply with our heads in the sky thinking about spiritual matters. We know those things are absolutely important, but we also know that the spiritual and the physical often go hand in hand. We're a whole people. We bring our whole selves to God, and God is interested in all of us, both our spiritual and physical being. And so our clinic, our vaccination clinic, has vaccinated more than 1,000 people. And I want to give a huge shout out to Andrea Lee, Pastor Rose, for bringing this opportunity to us, and a special shout out to Andrea for the ways in which she leads that effort every single time it's here at the sanctuary. If you have not yet been vaccinated, I want to encourage you to reach out to us at the office. We'd love to answer any questions that we can, put you in touch with folks who can answer those questions, but also sign you up for our next vaccination clinic here at the sanctuary. Beyond the vaccination clinic, we're also hosting weekly COVID testing through a partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health. And so, Sanctuary family, I want you to know we're making a tangible difference. We are doing good in the community. We are being the hands and feet of Jesus. And we're not just in a transactional way connecting to people. We are getting to know names, we're getting to know stories, and people are coming back to us and they're volunteering to serve others. And people are asking us, when are you all opening up? This is the kind of church I want to be a part of. And it's not a switcheroo. We're not doing good so that people will then take us seriously. We know that when we're faithful to God, God opens people's hearts to hearing the good news of the gospel. And so we're going to continue to serve faithfully. And I believe more and more people within this community and beyond will say yes to what God wants to do in their lives and in the life of our church. A few other things I want to point to from the first quarter of the year, and then I'm going to wrap up my time. We said goodbye to two beloved staff members in the first quarter. Tara Hollingsworth and Shayla Weatherby wrapped up their time here at the sanctuary in the first part of the year. And we were able to honor them in our worship service, in addition to several celebrations that we had behind the scenes. And I want to again thank them for their years of their time of service here at the sanctuary. Shayla was on staff for a short time, but has nearly a decade of serving our church in many capacities. Tara has essentially grown into the young woman of God that she is in our church, and I'm grateful for the time that we've had to spend with both of them as staff members of our church. And as we said goodbye to them, we were able to say hello to their interim replacements, for lack of a better term. So Steve Fitzhugh, who's a veteran youth pastor, a part of the Sanctuary family, someone we all know very well, stepped in to lead Mosaic, our youth ministry, during this time. And Erin Brecky, who is a part of our church as well, her family is well known and well loved, stepped in on an interim basis to lead our children's ministry during this time. And so we're excited to say hello and welcome to the two of them. We also were excited in this first part of the year to welcome Jesse Ross onto the team on a contract basis as a contractor to give some additional leadership to what we're doing in the area of neighboring and community ministry. Jesse is born and raised in this community. He loves North Minneapolis. He's known in the community and well respected. And his leadership over the last year plus has already helped our neighboring ministry go to another level, and we're able to increase that now with him in a contract role. And so you'll be hearing a lot more about Jesse's what he's doing in neighboring and how we want to invite the entire congregation to be a part of that work. And the final thing I'll share today is that we were also blessed in the first part of this year to launch 3 nationwide searches for 3 staff positions that are open. They talked about the family ministry positions, children's ministry, and youth ministry. Steve and Aaron are stepping in on interim bases, and we are hosting a national search for our ongoing leaders in both of those areas. But we're also able to launch a search for a new position that we're calling the Director of Leadership and Administration. It's very similar to what you would see with an executive pastor. I'm excited about that role because of the potential to take our ministry to another level. One thing I've realized in these first 2 years as lead pastor here at the sanctuary is that we're an expansive ministry with a lot of different needs, and it's essentially not a one person job. And I think I could very well pretend that, hey, I've got all of this under control, no worries, I'll take care of it. But I think the more honest and godly thing to do is to create space for other leaders on our team. And so we're looking for a director of leadership and administration who will help to direct our day-to-day activities, help to lead and direct our staff team. And I see for all three of those searches as we continue to expand our team and continue to expand our ministry here at the sanctuary. I want to say a few thank yous. First, to our staff team. You guys know I love you. You know what we do together, and you know how at times it seems impossible to do what we're trying to do together. But I'm so grateful for each of you, the way you love our church and the way that you serve alongside me, the way you allow me to speak into your lives and your ministries. And I'm so excited for what God will do as we continue to serve together. I want to say thank you to our elders for their spiritual covering and their direction, for the ways that they pray for and care for our staff team as well. I want to say thank you to all of our ministry leaders, those who are leading life groups and various ministries within the church. Thank you for stepping up, and not just to volunteer, but to actually lead volunteer ministry here at the sanctuary. We could not do what we're called to do without you. I want to say thank you to all of our community partners, those who trust the sanctuary and know that we are a church that wants to serve this community and enter into partnership with us. And then I want to say thank you to all of you, our congregation, our covenant members, our regular attenders, and those of you who are just checking us out. Maybe you've come to the sanctuary in the last few months and you're trying to get a sense of who we are as a church. I'm so grateful that God brought you here. And I pray that you would get a sense of what God is doing here and feel like this is a place that you can call home. I don't take it for granted, the opportunity that I have to lead this church. And I'm so grateful to call myself your pastor and to call you my brothers and sisters. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes today to talk about what God's been doing in the first part of the year. And I look forward to questions that you'll have, that you'll submit to us, and look forward to engaging with you as we continue to move towards our return to worship. God bless you and take care.